Very cool. Well, I'm happy we're able to jump on here and connect and just kind of talk about what we got going on in the industry and learn a little bit more about what you got going on.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Is this like, can you give me some background on what I'm just jumping into something I have no idea about?
Likewise, I'm just here just chatting with people. I kind of just put up a link with people, just wanted to see what they're talking about, and you showed interest in here, so I just said yes to the conversation. Um, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's no pressure, no agenda kind of thing like that. Just kind of want, just I know people in the industry like to chat with other stuff, and it's just kind of fun to kind of meet other people, and just kind of figure out what's going on, and what's the buzz in the industry right now.
Totally cool. Where are you based out of,
I'm
Felix?
in Chicago, so I've been
Oh,
like
okay.
yeah, I've been living here for like my whole life. I've been working in the cannabis industry since 2016. Worked on like the retail side, opened up dispensaries, kind of done the whole plant touching side for a little while. Did the retail operations for Columbia Care, Illinois for a little while, and then opened up their wholesale program here. And then I jumped over to the Ascend Wellness, did their wholesale program for a little while, and then I was a sales director at an edibles company. And now I'm working for C-Cell, selling the picks and shovels and selling like vape hardware to
Okay.
all the producers. And I just kind of as more I got into the industry, it's just kind of fun to chat with people. And I realized that there's a lot of people out there just kind of like that just need exposure as well. I just kind of wanted to see what they're doing and just here to chat.
Totally awesome. This is cool. I like that. It seems like you've been around doing everything. So that's
I've tried a little bit of,
props to you.
thank you. I've tried a little bit of everything and just kind of, yeah, I'm happy to hear what other people are up to and then just kind of comparing experiences and just, stuff like that.
Cool. Well, I'll do a little introduction on myself. My name is Ashley. I am based out of California. I have been working on the plant touching side of cannabis since 2011. And I think around last year, I started working for Growise. I'm doing their business development. Growise is a CPA firm, and we're just trying to like put our name out there. We are new, but we are experienced. I work with Kate, who is the founder and the CEO.
Very
It's a
cool.
own business. Yeah, she's amazing too. And I started off my cannabis journey started off in 2011. I used to work in cultivation. I at the time it was just a side gig to pay for my college textbooks. And ironically, I picked a degree involving plant science.
Nice.
But there was this whole stigma with cannabis that I was a closeted stoner for so long. I didn't want to tell, I did heavy research in the sciences, and I didn't want to tell my friends, my peers, my professors that this was my thing. But it paid for my school. I graduated almost debt free because of it. I
That's
don't know if
awesome.
that's legal to say. But yeah, I did it. And after a few years, I kept working with farms, and eventually, at that time, it just wasn't very safe either. Then legalization happened. I kept doing it for another 4 years. And then in 2020, I think I officially wanted to do something completely different. Um, so I started working legally. I started as a brand ambassador for Curaleaf Select. And then after that, I got into sales. I'm a yapper, so I love talking to people, hence why I'm here. Um,
Nice.
yeah, but it's been a really great journey. And then, just California is a little tough right now. So I wanted to not shove product down my local dispensaries. Instead, I wanted to help them. And working with the CPA firm Growise has been amazing because I'm helping people save money. I'm helping people stay educated on their finance and hopefully motivating people to take a little bit more action too, because what happens on a political level affects your everyday dispensary and your everyday stoner.
Oh yeah, definitely. When I was working in dispensary operations, I got to know some of like the local like Chicago politics, just because it's so enamored in all business here. And so like if you're in Chicago, you have to work with the aldermen to get anything approved and stuff like that. And it was very interesting hearing their perspective on cannabis as well. They were totally for it, just because of the amount of tax dollars that it brought in. I was asking them, was like, so is there any because I was also doing all the finances, like when I was like closing the books for all like the store, like for them as the manager duties, and I would see the amount of taxes that we're bringing in like every day, and be like, this is a godly amount, you know? And so I would go up to him, I was like, is there any business that even compares to us in the amount of taxes that we bring in to you guys? And he says the only one that can even compare is like a car dealership. But like square footage wise, there's no store that can compete with like, an 800 square foot dispensary cranking out, thousands and thousands of dollars of taxes every single day. And it's like, oh, I feel like I'm doing my civic duty here, just selling weed.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty crazy out there. With I've worked with some people who, transitioned from the 215 days in California to the legal structure that it is now. And some of these people, like don't have an education in finance. I don't do my own taxes. Like maybe I might do it this year, work myself up to it. But it's all just empowering people with knowledge on like how they can save money, how they can make their business thrive, and tax savings and reinvest that money into their own business and community too.
Are there any like low-hanging fruit that are like always available? Like when you look at someone's books, is there something like you just go to immediately, being like, okay, I know that people are overspending here or not saving here.
Well, I'm not a CPA myself. I do the business development, but just from my experience with working with people in cannabis who are business owners, executive level, down to the farmer, like everybody needs help. Bookkeeping, that's the big one. I used to work for a farm up in Northern California, and I asked one day, where do you keep your records of all like your paperwork and stuff? And they're like, we burn it. I was like, what? How do you burn this? And they're like, you never know when someone's going to be on to us about something. I'm like, you're a legal like farm. You don't have like what? And it blew my mind.
It's a very
That
different mindset.
yeah, there's like hash on your paperwork, and understandably too. Like if you've ever worked on a farm, there's soil, dirt, it gets rainy up in Northern California. I used to kind of work on another farm up in NorCal, and we had our permit, our collective permit on the floor, and I think Fish and Wildlife didn't really see that, and they cut down some of our plants at the time, and it was still very new, so we couldn't really sue because it
Oh
was not
wow.
legal. And it was just like this whole complication. But just staying organized, keeping your numbers on track, like a lot of businesses need help with that, just in general, too, outside of cannabis.
Yeah, I've noticed that I have like an events business on the side, and just keeping everything organized with that is like a part-time job in its own.
Oh my God, yeah. I've thought about like leaving cannabis and becoming a professional organizer because I'm very organized. But people need help, and that's the biggest. Morally, it makes me feel good that I'm helping businesses.
Definitely. That's great. Yeah, it's always good when you feel like you're, I guess you kind of mentioned instead of trying to like push product down someone's throat, like you're helping them in a way that's equally as good. Like, yeah, product is good. You're able to sell that, make revenue and stuff like that. But it's also a little bit of a liability versus like you guys is like, here, I can come in here and save you money. And like, that's, everybody needs that.
Yeah, especially in cannabis, people are taxed on their gross income versus their net income. So having that little extra cash can really help you out.
Definitely. So what are like, since you've been around California for a long time now, what are like some of like the drastic changes that like you've seen or like that you didn't see coming?
Oh, geez. Where do I start? Like I said, I started in 2011. So
You've seen the whole spectrum.
at that time, there's no pictures, no evidence of me ever working on farms, just because I never wanted to get caught. We'd get trimmers from like Argentina, Mexico, and when they're crossing into the US, they make sure there's no cannabis on their cell phones.
Yep.
Um, just seeing how underground it was, so raw, so not right, but also not right legally,
Yeah.
seeing it transition, something I didn't expect also with legalization. I thought there would be a little bit more government assistance to help people just navigate through that whole process. A lot of people didn't know how much money you needed to start up, the saturation, the licenses. It's been such a unstable road and journey.
Yep.
It is very exciting. I see brands, shops, farms go out of business and new ones come up. So it's a little sad, but it's also really cool because back in the day, my first stab, um, wasn't from rosin or anything. It was just this mysterious thing called shatter. And I love seeing how like the science has progressed. My partner always tells me, you don't see, you'd be amazed how a stoner can transition from a stoner to an engineer when you need to find something to smoke out of,
Yep.
making pipes out of apples and things. So it's been really cool to see that part of the industry, how science and technology, back then puff codes didn't exist. Now we do. We have dabs, we have rosin, fresh frozen, live resin. It's really cool to see how far we've come and how creative we've we've found creative ways to get stoned and high, and it's great, and it's accessible to everybody, which is another big thing I'm very proud of about the United States is you have your soccer mom eating her edibles at night, and you have like your college student rolling out of bed taking a dab the first thing in the morning. It brings people together. It's an amazing community that cannabis is built.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that just within like the community I've built within like the Brunch of Stoners organization that I've done, and just to see how even on like the dispensary floor, you'll see all walks of life, but they're communicating and bonding over cannabis. Those times at the dispensaries, we knew people that were like literally homeless and then literally millionaires on the sales floor at the same time, and then they're talking and giving each other recommendations. It's like no other spot in life would you ever see these people interacting in like this type of positive way. Um, yeah, it's just kind of really wild, and just to see like to your point, just like the innovation that people have done. I remember like back when the first dabs were just like, okay, red means go, 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 go. No, it's not red anymore. Okay, we got to reheat it, And then it's like it lights on fire, and you're like, oh, that was bad shatter. It's like, no, you just put shatter at like 900 degrees. Like of course it's gonna light on fire.
The nostalgia you just brought up. Yeah, now we can control temperatures. And, when I was a brand ambassador, I'd be slinging carts on the sales floor, working with bud tenders, and I'd see a nurse come in, I'd see teachers, I'd see parents. I see parents coming in to purchase things for their children that weren't of legal age yet, just because it helped their epilepsy or their ADHD. And it really does bring a lot of people together. And I love that aspect.
Yep. So what kind of like events or something are you seeing in California?
Oh man, I'm based out of San Diego. We are gonna have our first Farmers Cup that's been like approved by the county for us to like be able to smoke and consumption on site and everything. It's kind of a big deal. So that one I'm really looking forward to. And with Growise, I do work nationally, so we have some really exciting stuff in the Midwest, Ohio, and Missouri as well. But California, there's especially LA, there is always something happening. There's lounges in LA. There, I was just at the Woods. Buddhist hosted this awesome event, and it brought together NorCal farmers down in Southern California. And if you know anything about California, is there's a strong divide between NorCal and SoCal.
Yeah, that's cool to see that kind of interaction.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Northern California, it's a lot of hippies from like the 70s kind of went back to the land, and that's how I lived in Humboldt County, and that's how all the farmers got started cultivating cannabis. And there's a different mindset there. It's not about what brand, what's the hype. Everything's about being locally sourced and grown organically. And then LA is the complete opposite. It's like, who is smoking what? Who is rapping about this strain? And seeing those two worlds come together is awesome.
That that is really interesting, like the just like the hype factor of cannabis, not even based off of like the quality of the actual cannabis, but just kind of like that scene factor. It's like, oh, I want to be seen at the party flexing this Mylar bag, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like I mentioned that WeHo event was really nice. I met some back to the land, homegrown farmers and it's just such a California is so diverse. And I was at MJ Biz last year in December,
Yep.
and I saw a friend from California, and what's up? Let's smoke. And we rolled a blunt. And I asked, what are we smoking? And she was like, oh, I brought this from home. I
Nice.
brought it from our local dispensary down the street, High Key. And I was like, they sell weed in Nevada and Las Vegas. She's like, I don't trust it. And that's fair. I don't judge her for that.
That was funny. I was at the convention as well, and I did the exact same thing. I had like my own, personal stash, and then we went. I'm with C-Cell, and so we were at like C-Cell had like our big like after party at Planet 13, and so I was at there. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make some purchases. We have a Planet 13 here in like the Chicagoland area, or like northern suburbs, and so I was like, okay, I've seen what their second location. Let's see what their main location's like. And you get there, it's like, all right. Yeah, I'm glad I brought my own stuff, but let's check out some of these different products. And some of them are really good, and other ones are just kind of like, middle of the road. It's kind of hard sometimes when you're a tourist coming in and shopping into like a dispensary to like pick the perfect thing up like the right from the get-go.
And I'm so particular. If you hand me something that's indoor, outdoor, I can tell the difference. Living soil, if you haven't flushed your nutrients, maybe it's just me, but I feel like I can taste the difference.
Yeah, yeah, those local growers I met a couple months ago here in Chicago at an event. It was like a father-son duo that like do like growing, and their flower was so good. It was like crazy. They just had like their big bongs that they brought from home. They had like a big like ham and a big sovereignty and a big other one, huge, 2 foot
Oh,
bongs. They're just ripping them. And even with like, like the quarter gram like bowl rips that you're doing that they're like kind of forcing everybody to do, you could exhale like this still tastes like strawberry. Like this still tastes like runts. And it's like, man, you just take this big rip out of a normal flour and you just taste like resin and you just taste like a bowl. And so it's just like, what do you guys, I was like, what kind of newts you guys using? What kind of lights run? They're like, oh, we do these lights, but it's all living soil. We haven't added anything like that. Our beds have been living for 3 years now. One of them's been like 4 years. It's like, all right, like that, I can taste a difference. And like, this is like one of the first times I can actually say that.
yeah, living soil is the way to go. It is the most diverse ecosystem you can have in your roots, which is literally the foundation to your plant. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of living soil. What do you like to smoke on, Felix?
If I had my choice, it'd be like rosin all day. I like my concentrates, but I'm not picky. If you give me some live resin, I'll take that. Some cured butter, I'll take some of that as well. Um, I like dabbing. I'm kind of an old. My wife makes fun of me. I smoke out of like bowls a lot, and she's like, "Who's like you smoke so much weed, but yet still smoke bowls?" I was like, I don't. I like taking one rip at a time. I don't want to smoke a whole joint. Um, but yeah, I like flower, like dabs. I smoke it all. I eat edibles every night almost. There's not if it has THC in it, I'll consume it.
Any brands or strains that really like stick out in your area?
In our area, there's a couple new era dispensary. They are like in growers. They have some really good concentrates that I like. They're kind of like a local group. Um, the Arise, they're also really good. They're an all aeroponic group. They have stuff like in Southern Illinois, and then they also have stuff in Arizona, I believe. Their flour is really good, very tasty. And then they like anything GMO, like that's my jam. I'll take
Okay.
yeah, I really like that. And then on the opposite end, anything tangy, kind of like old school. Any of those crosses, I'll take those ones.
You got me a tangy. My mouth started watering. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I had a group the other day gave like a 24 karat gold, which is like Tangy and Kosher Kush. I was like, wow, I haven't seen one of these in a long time. And then it's like, yep, I can taste both of them. This is great.
Oh man, I do miss those OG strains. I was a huge fan of Girl Scout cookies back when I was in college. That was my go-to strain all the time.
And you guys had like the actual like forum cuts out there and out in Cali.
Yeah, and then for a while we stopped growing purple. I don't know why. I think I and I'm a huge advocate of bringing purple back. I could stare at it all day. That's my favorite is flower. I Everything about flower I love. Stickiness, the density, the nugs, and I'm very particular about my nugs. They have to be trimmed well. I don't like the very dense, hard to pull apart. It's got to be perfect for that bong bowl, you know.
Yep. So you smoke bongs?
Bongs, joints. I love rolling joints. I'll just sit there. I'll smoke the bong and then I'll concentrate to roll a few joints
Yep.
and I'll just have them, throughout the day ready to go. And if my tolerance is kind of going up, then I switch over to edibles. I'll do some dabs too. I'm not the best with technology, so I've broken a few Puffcos and I've mostly stuck to flower and edibles in the past few months because of that.
Nice. So with the edibles, do you guys see a big trend towards like moving away from distillate edibles like out in California, or do you see any type of trends out there?
Yeah, like I said, knowledge is power.
Yep.
Have Giving people the right education on down to cultivation to how it's processed and made. I think giving people that knowledge, they will make the right decision as to what fits them best. And usually people tend to gravitate towards strain specificity. Live rosin. I used to work for an edible company and we used to make our live rosin in-house.
Oh,
And
nice.
oh man, when the warehouse was making and washing that day and pressing, the whole warehouse just smelled so terpy, so good. And that's the kind of trust I want when I purchase something. I'm like, I want to know how this is made. Who made this? What's your process like?
Yep.
Um, I don't get into the specifics of like your micron size bags and things like that, but I think California, we're being educated with the new research that is out there and the innovation, like you mentioned, and we were talking about earlier. Um, Before it used to be just distillate in vape pens. And then I was working for Select Curaleaf. My job as a brand ambassador was to educate people the difference between distillate, botanically derived terpenes versus cannabis derived, and what the difference between distillate and live resin is. And it would blow people's minds. They'd be like, I didn't know I was buying distillate this whole time. Yeah, so it's great. I love to see that everybody is kind of forming their own decisions based on the education and knowledge out there.
Definitely. You mentioned education a lot. It seems like you're a very big proponent of education. I am as well. I also have a crop and soil science degree, so I think we share similarities in our backgrounds. What degree did you get, and how did that help you in your career?
I don't know if it really helped me. I went to Humboldt State. I got a botany degree.
Nice.
I wanted to be a scientist and save the world in a way. But I'm sure you've probably crossed this along your path, but it's a little depressing. You realize everything's dying, a lot of policies and political stuff. And I just always relied on like cannabis as a source of income, and it just came so natural to me. And I felt accepted. Like I mentioned earlier, I was a closeted stoner, so I just felt very accepted. But I don't know if it really necessarily helped me, but I do have a lot of confidence when I talk about cannabis because I understand.
There you go. For myself, I had a bunch of different experience in college where when I was going in I was a little bit older, I transferred in, And even before I was like meeting, kind of like seeing if I wanted to go to Illinois State University, I met with my would be mentor, and he's like, "Oh yeah, there's really cool things happening in like horticulture and agriculture in Illinois. You know, like industrial hemp just got approved. There's medical cannabis." And then he started listening. He's like, and then my dad kind of looked at me. He's really like, "We're gonna stop you there. Like, I'm here for cannabis essentially. Like, I want to get into cannabis. That's my whole purpose of joining an agriculture degree." And he's like, "Oh, awesome," and then so even even the rate from there changed from like, okay, everything's gonna be focused towards cannabis. And then once I joined the department, all the teachers knew that as well, essentially, and so they knew me as the cannabis like students. And then I opened up a dispensary, helped in town that was like opening up. I got to be like one of like, their managers, and so even reinforced it even more. And they're just like, oh, anything cannabis related, go to Felix. And then they were actually consultants for like Columbia Care back in the day, and so I got to meet like their CEO at the time, and that's where I was immediately went from graduating just into working from them as well. Um, yeah, so it's like I think yeah, definitely education has been very helpful. I think even just like overall, but I'm not sure where I was going with that, but I'm happy to
No,
hear that you have a botany degree.
I love that. I love that you own that from the beginning. See, that's something I didn't do, and I just hid that. And who knows where I would have been today, where I would be today if I had just owned it. Maybe I'd be doing research for cannabis. At that time, I don't think any of that really existed because it was so long ago.
Yep.
But I'm glad that you did that, and congratulations on all of your success and opening up shops and
They weren't
using.
my shops, to be completely clear. I was
Oh,
just a manager and just helping.
yeah,
Yeah.
that takes a lot of work.
Yes.
Um, I definitely, if I could do it over again, I would love to do research with cannabis.
Yep.
That's something I would like to do. Hopefully, there's funding for that in the future to come.
Yeah, there's too much like bro science out there when it comes to cannabis. And to like to your earlier, like to your point when you're like on the intake when we were talking, is just there's too many people that claim to be experts, and everybody wants to be the expert in cannabis, and very rarely do people like accept, oh wait, I'm wrong about that. They just kind of like double down on like their own beliefs, and it's a little interesting. We need more of like the research on there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been in a bro science conversation where I'm just listening. I'm not given much space to speak. Maybe I'm a woman, maybe I'm brown, who knows? But when I do, it's always like, who is this person coming here spitting these facts? And it's backed. I've taken organic chemistry. I understand ecosystems, hence living soil, why it's so good.
Yep.
So it's always it, people don't expect that from me.
Yes, definitely. I think that yeah, often when you think of cannabis and stoners, it's very male oriented. And there's not very many, even just in pop culture, there's not many like stoner female like icons. Where if you can there's an endless list of male like stoners you can just list off from like movies and pop culture and stuff like that. So I think that yeah, putting your knowledge out there and just kind of like, hey, I do know this stuff, and excuse me, finding the people that kind of support you in those roles. And here you are like making, saving people money. And like, that's the ultimate goal for, working with cannabis and somebody and people and stuff like that. It's hard to make enough money. So you guys save what you do make.
Yeah. And when I went into botany, I didn't want to necessarily do anything with my degree. Maybe I wanted to be a scientist, but people would ask me, "What are you gonna do with plants?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's just so interesting. I want
Agreed.
to know how this works." And just for that sole purpose is why I went to school, and I wanted to do, a master's and eventually a PhD, but by the time I graduated, I was so burnt out. I was managing a few farms, doing full-time school, taking grad level classes, doing grad level research, and I was so burnt out. So I just needed a little break.
Yeah, exactly. And it gets to the point where if you're not the almost like the purpose of more degrees is to go more into education and more like double downing on that. I worked with a couple research labs and saw those like masters and PhD students, and it was just they were so. I was like, so what are you guys going to do with this? And they're like, well, I'm a master's, so I think my next thing is go for my PhD. I was like, and then what? And then what are you going to do with a PhD? And they're like, well, I'll probably get a job here at school and start teaching and stuff like that. It's like, wait a second, you guys have so much knowledge. Like you guys should be like, out there practicing it, like say like helping farms and farmers and all the producers. And they are, but yeah, it's interesting to see just kind of like that mindset of like, oh, I just need to learn more and more and more. And so, but sometimes out there doing and helping people is almost like more efficient.
You took the words right out of my mouth. There's a huge disconnect, and it's bridging that gap. Why gatekeep all this knowledge? Why not make it easier to understand and accessible to people? Because
Yeah.
it does help farmers, and uh, our CPA firm does help dispensaries. So it's just nice to see how people apply their knowledge.
Nice. So as we wrap up here, if someone wanted to get in touch with you guys to help with their finances, how can they get in touch with you?
Totally. We are on pretty active on LinkedIn. We have our website. Just head on to our website, put it in that you want to talk to us, schedule an appointment, reach out to us on LinkedIn. We do attend some events nationally. We were just at MJ Biz, as I mentioned earlier. We're heading out to Ohio next week. We're in a lot of Southern California events too, because that's where I'm based out of. But yeah, just our website. Find us there. Our LinkedIn.
Sweet. Well, this has been great, Ashley. I really appreciate chatting with you.
Yeah, Felix, it's nice talking to another fellow, scientist out there.
Yeah,
Not-
stoner scientist.
Yeah, I know. We need that more in the world. Thank you so much
Agreed.
for your time.
Definitely. Yeah. If you ever want to chat in the future or have any other like projects or events you want to like highlight, feel free to reach out. I'm always on a chat.
Yeah, definitely. One of my team members was like, "Hey, we should see what this is about." And I was like, I'll be the first one to try it out. I'll let them know too, because everyone we work with is so interesting and unique.
Yes, exactly. And if you ever have any clients that want to, get on, get more exposure, or if you have any clients looking for vape hardware, let me know.
Oh my gosh, don't bring me back to vapes. I was done with that for so long ago. But I'll keep you in mind for sure.
Awesome.